Hello and welcome again to my Physical Science online video lecture supplement series. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a post-quiz review. So the quiz that I'm going to be reviewing is for quiz number 1, which is the measurements quiz. This is for the T4 of 2016 online physical science class. And what I'm going to be doing, since this is the first of these post-quiz reviews that you've seen, is after each quiz in the lecture, I'm hoping to, once I've sort of graded through or regraded Blackboard's grading and corrected any little mistakes of that sort that Blackboard makes that I can, is I open up an item analysis and I see what questions were harder, what questions were easier for most people, and then I try to pick the 2 to 3 hardest questions as measured by greatest frequency that they were missed among the questions that everybody has. So a lot of my quizzes will have some questions that are drawn from a pool in which you might get that question or somebody else might get it, and then a bunch of more questions which everybody has. So I will be looking at the ones that everybody has. And I should add that most of the questions that show up on my quizzes will tend to have come from either the examples that I've worked for the lecture, or they will come from the physical science textbook homeworks. I may change some numbers a little bit in the quiz questions, but they will often follow the homework that I've assigned for that week. So with that little introduction aside, let's go ahead and pull up the item analysis for this quiz and see how you guys did. So this is my item analysis for quiz 1. The main things that I look at when looking at this item analysis for the purpose of these videos is I look at how many completed attempts there are, because it tells me when I look down here and see 22 next to it that everybody saw it, because there were 22 attempts and 22 people got it. This one, everybody had the exact same quiz, so it should say 22 across the board. This one right here is of minor interest to me. I basically use it to make sure that I am giving you guys a fair amount of time to do this quiz. It says that the average time was 30 minutes. You had, I think, 90 to do this quiz, so that's 3 times what the average time limit was. That tells me that the quiz timer is plenty long enough. And then maybe the most interesting thing is the average score on the quiz. So the average score on this quiz is an 84.6, which is almost but not quite an A. In fact, it's I would call it like a very high B plus or a very low A minus. Recall that the cutoff is an 85% to get an A, or to earn an A. So then there's also these discrimination questions. These ones aren't very interesting to you guys. Basically, if it's good, it more or less means that the people who did well on the test in general did well on these compared to the people who did badly on the test. So these sometimes are all over the place. The difficulty basically says how many easy, medium, and hard based on what fraction of points did you earn. So I think it goes that an easy question is that on average, if the question was worth 10, if the average score was an 8 or above, then it counts it as easy. If it was, I think it looks like a 3 or below, counts as hard. And anything between 3 and 8 out of 10 would count as medium. So this test, as measured by those metrics, has 7 easy, 4 medium, and 0 hard. So the 2 that I'm specifically going to look at are basically these top 2 questions here. Basically, I've arranged them in order of difficulty. These 2 were the most difficult for this quiz, or the least easy, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to look at more depth at these two questions this time around. There's also this multiple answer question, and I guess I could look at that as well. It's worth noting that there's sort of a key to where I pulled these questions from. In most of my quizzes, if it says E, it usually means it's an exercise from the physical science, and the number usually tells you which one. Future quizzes will say EO for exercise odd, or EE, I think, for exercise even. MC is multiple choice. Key term matching usually will say KTM. And there's also, later on, there will be stuff like applying your knowledge, which is AYK. There's examples from my homework, which usually are like EXA, or MEX for modified example. So I'm telling you that because you probably can see this when you're looking in the quiz, and it sort of tells you where did I pull this question from. So hopefully that's helpful information for you in the future. All right, so with that said, let's look at each of these three questions in turn. And I guess we can start with the most points one first, the least easy, the most easy one first, and then go to least easy. So the first question, which of the following from this list are hard sciences? And you have to choose all that apply. And so the options are history, astronomy, geography, economics, psychology, meteorology, and earth and space sciences, none of the above, and astrology. What I'm going to do to help answer that is I pulled up WebAssign because there's an ebook on WebAssign. This is the same textbook, but an e-version of the book that you guys are using in class. In fact, if you sign up for WebAssign, you can pay and have access to this ebook instead of buying one from the store, or in addition to buying one from the store, whichever you prefer. And so I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go to the part where it's discussing science. So I've opened it up, and before I go to the spot that I need to go to answer this question, I should mention that there was discussion on the discussion boards before this quiz about what's the difference between hard sciences and natural sciences. And I noted that I basically just used the two terms interchangeably, that a hard science basically is in reference to how rigidly the science has been defined with respect to the scientific method or the scientific process. And natural science basically means studying something in nature, meaning the stars, or human body, or animals, or the laws of the universe, etc. So let's go to this first section on the physical sciences. I can zoom in so that you can actually see all of this. What we need to do is skip to the page that has basically lists out the different sciences. But you can see that there's sort of two major divisions within natural science, and 5 within physical science. So let's see it. The part that we're interested in the text is this paragraph here, science, talking about Latin for knowledge. It's an organized body of knowledge and about the natural universe and the process by which that knowledge is acquired and tested. And then it states that there's basically social sciences, which are also the soft sciences, and there's natural sciences, which are the hard sciences. So the natural sciences are therefore the biological sciences or life sciences, and the physical sciences. So anything that falls under a biological or life science or a physical science will count as an answer to which of these are the hard sciences. So then, looking at this, physical sciences includes physics, chemistry, astronomy, meteorology, and geology. If you're more of a visual learner than a text learner, then here is the organization. The sciences, so the natural sciences are the ones we're interested in, biological science, and physical science. Within physical science, there is the following: physics, chemistry, astronomy, meteorology, and geology. And it's worth noting that under meteorology, there's Earth and space science, and that also counts. So let's go back to those options on the actual quiz. First option is history. I didn't see that anywhere on that list. It is, in fact, a liberal art, or you could call it maybe a soft science of sorts. Astronomy was certainly on that list. And if you went back and looked, you'd see it, some of the physical sciences. Geography is not on the list. Geography is not the same thing as geology. Geology is studying rocks and how mountains are formed and tectonic plates, that kind of thing. Geography is studying where places are located. So the geography of the United States, maybe you study where are the 50 states, where are the capitals of those states, maybe some demographics information. So if you count that, it's kind of a soft science. Economics is one of the hardest of the soft sciences. Psychology is the other hardest of the soft sciences. These are the two that are most nearly use math as their methods or use the scientific method, etc. Meteorology, or Earth and space sciences, this was explicitly listed as a physical science, so these two are right. Since these two are right, then none of the above must be wrong. And then the last one was astrology. Astrology is not the same thing as astronomy. And in fact, I was nicer to you guys than I've been to some classes in the past. I actually gave both astronomy and astrology so that you could note that there is some distinction. This is basically the casting of horoscopes and looking at the stars and trying to predict what kind of person somebody will be based on the stars, etc. It is not really a science at all. An astrologer might claim, well, yeah, it is a science. And to be fair to astrology, a lot of astronomy was born thanks to astrology, but astrology as such is not a science, let alone a hard science. All right, the next question I wanted to look at was this one that says, compute the density in grams per cubic centimeter of a piece of metal that has a mass of 0.5 kilograms and a volume of 63 cubic centimeters, answer in grams per cubic centimeter. There's a couple things that I want to do with this. One of them is explain what it means when it says answer in these terms. The other is to actually work through the problem. So let's do that. So to get the density of an object, you use the equation, and this is really the only equation given in your textbook for this chapter, certainly in the summary of the chapter at the end. It says rho is equal to m over v. This is equivalent to saying density, that is what the rho term stands for, equals mass, that's the m, per unit volume, that's the v. And the per unit volume is how we do this divided by sign. So it defines the same as a fraction. Now, I mentioned that it's the only equation that's mentioned in the back of your textbook. What I mean by that is the back of the chapter of the textbook. And if you look online or if you look in your print book, there is a section called Important Equations. This one is just called Important Equation because there's only one of it. And it's basically at the very end of the chapter, right before the exercises. So if we were to go to that section, it's usually down here. Important equation, rho equals m over v. That was equation 1.1 in the text. But in fact, if you go to the next page, it's all the exercises for this chapter. So they are actually very nice in that they give you the equations right before the part of the chapter where you're going to need the equations. I'm telling you this because I've had a few requests for where can we find a list of the important equations for the chapter. So there's your answer. There's one place where you can. I'll usually try to include some at the end of my notes as well. Coming back to this though, we have density is mass per unit volume. So that means that we need to plug in the mass, which was 0.50 kilograms that was given in the problem. And then we divide that by the volume, which was 63 cubic centimeters. So you can, at this point, use a calculator if you need to. Long division can be a bit tricky by hand. No point in spending all that time on it if you can just do something like this, especially on a timed quiz. And what we get is 0.007936, etc. So we would write this as 0.00. Notice that there's two significant figures here. 1, 2 here, 1, 2 here, therefore there needs to be 2 here. So we would basically put the 7, 9 on here. The remaining figures, 3, 6, 5, 0, 7, 9, etc. These are not significant figures, so we ignore them, or we drop them. We round this guy, which is a 3, so it gets truncated. And the units are kilograms per cubic centimeter. The question said, answer in grams per cubic centimeter. So what that means is that we need to convert this kilograms to a grams. So basically rho is equal to 0.0079 kilograms, let's say per 1 centimeter cubed. And if you want to convert kilograms into grams, what you do is you look up the conversion factor if you don't know it. For those of you who have the hard copy of the book, what you can do is flip to the very back cover, at least for the 14th edition, and it lists a bunch of conversion factors. The E version of the book I don't think has that, but you can open it up, go to page 12 of the E version of 14th edition, and it has this little thing in here where it talks about mega, kilo, centa, and milli. These are conversion factors within the metric system. They're really prefixes, and this is telling us what the meaning of the prefix is. So kilo is a prefix of K, means 1,000. That's how I read that. So a kilogram means a kg means 1,000 grams. So we got to multiply by 1,000 grams per 1 kilogram. That's the conversion factor. So you can see that the kilograms and the kilograms cancels. You have 1,000 times this. That's like moving this decimal place 1, 2, 3 to the right. And so what you get is that the density is equal to 7.9 grams per cubic centimeter. All right, so now we have our answer in grams per cubic centimeter. How do you actually enter it into Blackboard? Basically, having done this, what you do is you imagine that the answer to the question says something like this. The density of the block is, or of the piece of metal is, blank, and this is the place where you enter it, grams per centimeter cubed. So you imagine that you're filling in the blank for this sentence. So what would I have to put in this blank to make this sentence complete? This, by the way, this blank box represents the answer box in Blackboard. So rho equals 7.9 grams per cubic centimeter. The density rho of the piece of metal that's still rho is, that means equals, we need to put a 7.9 in here to get the answer right. So that's how your answers should look in Blackboard. So in Blackboard, what you're given is a box like this. You'd enter 7.9 into the box. And that's how you should answer any question with units from now on for the rest of this course. If you don't answer it this way, if you put 7.9 g per centimeter cubed like this, Blackboard will count it as wrong. And in the context of this sentence, you can see that it actually would be wrong because you just now said that it's 7.9 grams per centimeter cubed, grams per centimeter cubed. Well, that's the same as 7.9 grams squared per centimeter to the sixth. And that's not right. So from now on, just enter the number. But you have to do this conversion step first. Here, by the way, is the answer that I put into Blackboard at 7.9. And you can see why, having seen this video. So this is what it should look like. Hence, when you're looking in Blackboard and you get to this question and it says compute the density in grams per cubic centimeter, answering grams per cubic centimeter, you would write into this box 7.9. And then you save your answer. And then when you're done, you submit it, and because you converted it to the correct units, this answer will get marked as correct. So if I do save and submit or whatever, it's going to say you didn't complete all of them because obviously I didn't. But if I scroll down, it's telling me it's late because of the fact that this is late for this. And that doesn't matter too much here. You can try to review your results, and it's basically going to say you got this one question right. And we open it up, given. You'd be surprised how many people's quizzes that they actually submit look like this sometimes. And selected answer 7.9, 10 out of 10 points, that means got it right. Alright, the most frequently missed question on this quiz was apparently this one about a cylinder having a height of 10 centimeters, 10.0 centimeters, and a radius of 5.0 centimeters. And so it asks how many significant figures can the volume be determined to. Note that this is not the same thing as asking what is the volume of the cylinder. It just wants to know, when you write your answer out, how many significant figures would you have. So the way that you actually would calculate the volume of the cylinder, for what it's worth, volume of a cylinder, here's your cylinder, drawn basically looking at it from the side, and it says that the radius is 5, so R equals 5.0 centimeters, H, the height, this obviously is not to scale, is 10.0 centimeters. That actually means that this diameter and this height should be equal. Volume for a cylinder is given by this area of the circle times this basically height. So area of a circle is pi r squared. Multiply that by h. So you have pi times 5.0 centimeters, square that, times 10.0 centimeters. And so when you do all of that, what you end up getting is, just put this guy over here with pi times 5 times 10. It says 157.079, blah, 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 blah. So the question is, well, how many of these digits should I keep, and or which one should I round off? And the rule is that if you multiply one or more numbers times each other, that you look for the one that has the least number of significant figures, and that's the one that you use. Now pi is determined out to many, many, many significant figures, so 3.14, 159, etc. you can have as many significant figures as your calculator allows you, or as you have memorized out to, or what have you. So effectively, this has infinity significant figures. This number right here has two significant figures. Both the 5 and the 0 are significant. So two significant figures. I'm going to abbreviate it as sig figs. This one has 3 significant figures. 3 sig figs. So the one with the least is this, 2 significant figures. Therefore, V is equal to 160 cubic centimeters. In other words, round to 2 significant figures. So that means that the answer to this question, because it says how many significant figures can the volume be determined, the answer is 2. So that's how you do that question, which I guess is the most vexing one on this particular quiz. And I think that that actually wraps up what I was going to say about this quiz and also about future quizzes and so on. I hope that you guys find this video helpful, and I will probably continue to post some sort of post-quiz analysis and review in the future. So stay tuned after each quiz. Usually I'll post these a day or two after the quizzes are due. And the understanding here is that unless you've got prior approval from me to take the quiz late, you're going to lose points but may still submit late after these are submitted. It's just that you're going to lose points because, hey, I've just given away the answer to 2 or 3 questions. So try to have your quiz in on time. If you end up getting it into me on Sunday rather than Saturday and I haven't posted this yet, then I may not really care too much that it's a day late. If you're posting your quiz on Wednesday and I've posted these videos and you didn't talk to me in advance to let me know for some reason that you're going to be doing Wednesday, then you can expect a late penalty. So that's how that's going to work in the future. Well, until the next one of these videos, so long and thanks for watching.